Hello Mechwarriors, and welcome back to the Mech Lab, where we try to be a better mech commander every day. Today I'm looking at the proposed rules changes from CGL. We'll be going over the two first packages, survivability and mobility. And we're starting off with undoubtedly the worst change that they have proposed, which is the removal of the side hit location tables. To sum up what is going on here, this is the old hit location tables. If you were in the left or right side, you would roll on the side locations, and you would roll on the front or rear if you were in the front or rear. So first of all, I have to ask, what is wrong with just having this table? Most players are going to have to look up the table every time they roll anyways, so having this nice convenient chart to show you where you're shooting when you are in any given arc is absolutely no bother at all. Especially because you're probably also going to have to look up the hit locations that are the previous page in the rule book anytime you're questioning whether you're in front, side, or rear arc, because these are not really intuitive for a new player, or they'll have a handy reference sheet that they can use. So this rule doesn't help anyone, and it really hurts a lot of units. And I can show you how with every Battletech player's favorite thing: dice math. So here's our old hit percentages with the old hit location tables. The side torsos in the side arc become a 7, so that's a little over 15% chance to hit. And then you've got a pretty good chance of hitting the leg or the arm. And then the rest is either the center torso, which is on 8s, or the head. So you actually have a pretty reasonable chance of hitting the other side of the mech, even when you're in the side arc, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's simulationist. If you're in the side arc of a mech and they're running and you aim at their legs, there's a good chance that your shot is going to go past their closest leg and hit the other one instead, because the legs are moving constantly. Similarly, the mech might be turning around and you might hit the other side of the mech because they're torso twisting. And Battletech, for me and most fans, is supposed to be pretty simulationist. It's really crunchy. That's the entire point of the game. If you didn't want a crunchy game, you'd go and play like Steel Rift or something. So now with the new side arc proposals, we have an over 1/4 chance to hit the side torso when in the side arc. And the chance to hit the leg is about the same, but where things start really getting ridiculous is when you consider what happens when the arm from the side torso is gone. Over 50% chance to hit the side torso once the arm is gone. So previously, mechs really wanted to protect their rear arc, right? And that's pretty easy to do. It's a very narrow band. It's pretty hard to get back here if you've got other supporting mechs alongside the unit, because you're going to give up your own side or rear arc to one of them and get blown up. But now, the most efficient way to destroy a battle mech is to hit it from the front a few times on the way in, and then see which side is most damaged, and then your flankers just go for either the right or left side, depending on which side has taken the most damage. Or, if you're going on a fresh mech, your flankers go for whichever side has all of the weapons. For example, a Griffin is now heavily nerfed. The Griffin is already not the best unit in my opinion, but now they are completely useless, because if an enemy gets into your right side arc, there's a really, really good chance that they're gonna alpha strike you a couple times and your weapons are just gone. And now the Griffin is just a walking kickbot. Things get even worse when you realize that they've moved the center torso from 8s in the side arc to 7s, which means that this is the number to hit the center torso when in the side arc now, which means that you're nearly 3/4 likely to hit the center torso once a side arc has been blown off. So instead of having to get around behind a mech, it is so much easier to just work your way into their side arc and just blow them up really, really quickly. And this is extremely bad news for any Inner Sphere player post-Clan Invasion, because Inner Sphere XL engines are just absolute garbage now. You can't play an Inner Sphere XL engine on any unit. It's completely useless. It's going to die within 3 turns every single game. Now, as a person who usually played standard engine mechs anyways, this is a bit of a boon for those units, but even then, you still have the downside that it's much easier for enemies to get through all of your armor on that tough standard engine unit by just focusing on a single side arc. So this proposed change for side hit locations needs to be abolished. It's complete garbage. This is fundamentally game-breaking and doesn't actually help literally anyone at all. There is no reason to include this. Second proposed change, explosion damage cap. This one I actually like. If you're playing in Intro Tech and you have a unit that has like a machine gun, like a Thunderbolt or a Battlemaster, they're walking around with a bomb inside of them. There's no way for you to get rid of that machine gun ammo, and if it goes up, your mech is gone. It's a crater on the map. But now, even if your ammo is uncased, it's a maximum of 20 damage to a location. That's a big improvement for ammo-toting mechs. Mechs like the Shadowhawk, the Jaeger mech, and the Archer, who all had a little bit of a problem with blowing up pretty often, are now vastly improved. Currently, uncased ammo gives a 15 battle value discount. I think that's still probably fine to keep in, and I don't know if CGL is going to work on a battle value 3 system along with these changes. I imagine that if they make a BV3 system, it's probably not going to be balanced, so I don't really want them to, because we've had BV2 for so long that everyone's kind of learned the ins and outs of it, and I don't really want to have to learn an entirely new game, an entirely new system of exploiting battle value. Although, if it fixes pulse lasers, maybe it's worth it. I think an easy fix, honestly, is just to make pulse lasers a little bit more expensive and targeting computers a little bit more expensive, and suddenly you've pretty much fixed all of the battle value issues in the game. Jumping is a bit of a problem still, but that's pretty hard to balance. Anyways, 10 damage if you have case is also huge. That means that all of the Intersphere XL engine mechs that have case can now live through an ammo explosion. So while this heavily debuffs XL engine mechs on the IS side, this heavily buffs them. So that is an okay trade-off, I guess. It's not great for XL engine mechs that didn't have ammo, but again, I like this. I think that it makes case a lot more meaningful, and it will make ammo-toting mechs a lot better. Everyone knows that lasers are the best in Battletech, right? And having ammo that explodes and destroys your unit means that ammo-toting mechs suddenly become a lot more viable because they don't just explode whenever they get an ammo crit. So I like this. I think it's a good change. This cannot be implemented. This probably should be. Okay, next up, mobility. I like the water change. Currently, you can't run if you enter water, which means that if you're already using your running movement and you have to cross a one-depth river, you can't move through it. Now they're making it so that it's a PSR to enter the water if you're running or jumping, which was already the case. Jumping into or out of water required a PSR, I believe. I like having more options for my ground-bound mobility units. This means that jump jets are a little bit less necessary, which is good because for the most part, jump jets are a little bit too strong. I think that this makes water a lot simpler, and it makes it a lot better in terms of not forcing people to get bogged down by the water as much. Backwards level change, a rule that was already in TAC Ops, and it's pretty much always used by anyone who plays competitive Battletech, at least in my experience. So I think this is fine. Just put this in as is, or you can have the +1 PSR penalty. I think this is fine. Make it part of the core rules. I want to be able to walk backwards up a hill. It's convenient sometimes. Immobile mech definition change. This is terrible. It makes it so that immobile mechs, including mechs that are shut down or have an unconscious mech warrior, cannot be used to initiative sync. If your mech is shut down or immobilized, you're already in a pretty bad position. Why would you make the game harder for that person when they're already getting screwed? Initiative syncing is an extremely important tactical part of Battletech. Removing the ability for mechs that have gotten their legs kicked off and stuff like that, not able to sync initiative, is absolutely terrible. This doesn't need to be in. It doesn't help new players because it complicates the game. It's like, wait, I can't initiative sync with this unit now because it got knocked down and its gyro is broken? I thought that I could do that. Oh no, now I have to activate this unit when I thought that I could use this unit to sync. Oh no, I'm screwed now because I'm gonna get someone in my side arc and I'm gonna get my XL engine blown up. So this is bad. Don't include the immobile definition change. I do like this, however. Occupied hexes. A mech that is immobile no longer occupies a hex. That's a good change. There's no way that an immobile mech can stop you from moving through them. So I like this. I think that this should be implemented. Everything else about this is garbage. Throw it out. Piloting skill roll modifier for a damaged gyro reduced by 1. So with a 5 piloting mech warrior, normally if your gyro's damaged, you need an 8 to stay standing. Now you need a 7. I think that this is a good change. It makes it so that poor mech warriors are less likely to fall over. And I've had a lot of matches where I've gotten a through armor critical to my gyro and it's knocked over my mech and my mech just either gets kicked to death or death flails itself. This is maybe a good change, but not if it's in combination with all of the changes to leg crits. So firstly, the foot actuator no longer requires a PSR if destroyed. which doesn't make any sense. If you're running along and your ankle snaps off, it's gonna mean that your mech is probably gonna take a tumble. Imagine if you were running a foot race and your foot randomly just fell asleep. You're gonna probably trip, right? No PSR required, and no penalty to PSRs when your foot actuator is broken. Again, if your foot is asleep or if your ankle's broken, you're not going to be able to walk as effectively. This is removing some of the simulationist aspects from Battletech again, which I don't like, and it doesn't make any sense. Everything else getting crit in the leg causes a PSR, but the foot doesn't? That's counterintuitive. This is not a good rule change. Hip actuator crit can no longer kick, halves your movement, and requires a PSR. They reduced the PSR modifier from 2 to 1 as well, which is, again, essentially I think what they're trying to do is make it so that mechs fall over a lot less, because your mech falling down isn't fun. I understand that. However, making the enemy mech fall down is very fun, so let's finish with all of the leg things and then I'll review what I like and don't like about the changes. Cumulative leg PSR effects. Right now, if you get more than one thing crit in your leg and or get a gyro crit, you have to make a PSR for each one. With this change, no matter how many leg actuators have been destroyed in each leg, you only make one PSR. With this change, no matter how many things are crit in a leg, you only make one PSR for that leg. But it is applied per leg. So if you have both of your legs get crits on them, you do need to make 2 PSRs. You still add up all of the critical effects. So if you have a hip, upper leg, and lower leg crit out of your mech, that's a +3 to the PSR. So again, they're trying to make it less likely that you fall down. The only way that you take multiple PSRs is if you get both legs crit, or you get a crit in a leg and get a crit in your gyro and get kicked. So you could make up to 3 PSRs, I think, is how it works, and probably one for taking 20 damage as well. And then all of those can still stack together. But overall, it's a very large reduction in the chance that you're going to knock an enemy mech over, even if you get a crit in their leg. And then we have leg destruction. So destruction of a mech's leg very rarely represents a surgical amputation of the limb at the hip. Instead, it usually means that the leg is reduced to a hindering lump of salvaged unresponsive metal. So this is the Mechwarrior definition of what happens when your leg is destroyed. You're just dragging the leg along, which is also reflected in some Battletech fiction, but there are absolutely instances where mechs get their leg completely blown off. So I don't think I really like this. This currently replaces both the normal effects of leg destruction and the leg blown off critical hit result. So go and vote on this and tell them that you want your leg to be blown off on, I think it's a 12. That's a really unlikely thing to happen, and it's pretty funny. So the wild stuff that can happen in Battletech, you definitely want to have that at least. And I don't think that I like leg destruction being treated like this. If you have your leg destroyed, I feel like you should pretty much be in the dirt for the entire game. You might be able to limp along, but there's a very good chance that you're not a good enough pilot to even get your mech up and walking again. This literally applies less of a piloting skill modifier than just having all of the elements in the leg crit currently. Because hip is 2, legs and feet are 3, and then I think when your leg is destroyed, it applies an additional 1. So it goes from a 6 to get up with one leg to a 4, which is not great. I don't like this. I'm okay with having quad mechs be like a little bit more sturdy and resilient to that kind of thing. Although quad mechs are actually really good already and probably don't need the benefit. I'm telling you, the only reason we don't see more quad mechs in play is because there's not that many quad mechs that are well optimized. But quad mechs make insanely effective sniper units. They're just not great at skirmishing because they can't torso twist. But that can be solved with a torso turret. Last change here, the modifier to PSR required to stand up has changed from +0 to -1. So it makes standing up once you've been knocked down a lot easier. Instead of a 5, an average pilot with no additional damage needs a 4. This I actually kind of like, but not in combination with all of these. So essentially what all of these changes do is make it much, much harder to knock an enemy mech down and keep them down. So it nerfs the effectiveness of kicks, which might be a good thing because kicking is a little bit too strong right now. My proposed changes are this. Leave gyros the way they are, or we can change it to +2 instead of +3. We absolutely need to still have a PSR if the foot is crit, and then we can standardize what happens with everything in the leg. Make it so that all leg criticals are +1 PSR. All leg criticals apply a -1 MP MP, except the hip. The hip still halves your movement if it's crit out. That makes things nice and consistent, nice and simple, and still overall has a similar effect to what they are trying to do here. Instead of having the leg destruction replace all other effects, just have an additional 1 PSR if all of the internal structure is removed, and maybe an additional 1 walking movement point reduction. Or, I think how it is right now, if your leg is destroyed, you have a maximum movement of 1. I think that that's probably a good change, because it puts all mechs on an even playing field. A Locust isn't going to be able to limp along faster than a Thunderbolt. I feel like if you get multiple criticals in one leg, you should probably be making multiple PSR rolls, but at the same time, if you're getting multiple crits in one leg, you're probably also taking 20 damage at the same time, which means that you're going to make a lot of PSRs and probably fall down. But that's kind of one of the big tactical things about Battletech, is focusing fire, getting that 20 damage threshold, and also landing a kick on the same mech at the same time. I'll have a link in the description to the playtest page here. Go over there, go into the forums, voice your concerns and your opinions, and while you're following that link, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about your thoughts about the playtest rules. Package 3 gear is coming out in just over a week, and I'll be having a look at that when it comes out as well. I think that they have a lot of potential to fix a lot of problems with the game by either making lasers more battle value expensive and or buffing autocannons, especially autocannons, and maybe missiles as well. Like, LRMs are a little bit inefficient. I think that they could also really stand to alter the way that battle value and ammo works, because right now, Hyper Assault Gauss weapons are really expensive because they have to carry a ton of very expensive ammo, and a lot of other ammunition-based weapons are battle value inefficient because they have to carry so much expensive ammo. And the LRM-20 ends up costing a lot more battle value than the same amount of missiles from an LRM-5, even though the LRM-5 is much more efficient, both in heat and damage output on average. So those are some good changes, and if CGL makes those, I will be very happy about it. Thanks so much for watching, Mechwarriors, and have a great day.